What if you can deeply love someone and still be completely exhausted by the relationship? What if the problem isn't that you don't love them, but that your nervous system has simply run out of capacity? Welcome to Regulate and Rise, where regulation is the path to liberation. I'm Liana Gardner, founder of the Emancipation Frequency.
And I'm Tracy, founder of Ruha Rising.
And today we're talking about something that so many people experience but rarely say out loud. It's emotional exhaustion in relationships. That feeling when you really love someone, but their text feels like one more thing that you have to deal with. When connection starts feeling like obligation, or when you find yourself thinking, I don't have anything left to give. And then you feel guilty for even feeling that way. But what if exhaustion isn't a sign that you don't love someone? What if it's information? What if your body is trying to tell you something about the way you're relating isn't sustainable for me anymore? And that's what we're unpacking today. And so let's get into it, Tracy. I
Mhm.
This topic to me has a lot to do with regular relationships like a marriage or boyfriend girlfriend or boyfriend girlfriend,
Mhm.
whatever it is. But it also has to do with friendships, any type of relationship. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree with that because a relationship is a relationship.
That's right.
Relating,
And
relating to somebody.
so let's get into what happens inside the nervous system when someone feels emotionally exhausted in a relationship.
Well, that can look like many different things. It can look like you're feeling drained, or you may not even know you're dreading talking to someone, but you're going to be in this energy presence and you just leave that presence after being with a person who emotionally exhausts you, and you just feel drained, you feel exhausted. Your body just says, what just happened? I'm just feeling drained, I'm exhausted. You can come out feeling irritable, or as you're interacting you're irritable. Your nervous system is just on edge. If you are emotionally exhausted, your defense system is down. You can't really protect yourself as well as you normally would if you're healthy and getting enough rest and emotionally regulated. So you also might feel emotionally numb. So you can go from irritability, sometimes it can be in all in one interaction, to feeling just numb. I don't feel anything. You can want to be alone. I just need to escape. I need to get away from here. I need to rest and reset myself. I need to be alone. Might feel like, as Liana said, I don't have anything left to give. And just having to interact with someone when you're feeling like that, that changes the whole dynamic. So I'm not sure where we left off with the technical difficulties.
Yeah, I believe there's a little lag. You're breaking up a little bit.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
I can. Mhm.
Okay.
So I was just talking about when you feel emotionally exhausted in a relationship, bottom line is it's hard to interact. Uh, you can't give like you normally would if you're rested and not emotionally defensive. You can't receive what's coming at you. You're just using your energy to get through the interaction so that you can be alone afterwards, so you can take care of yourself. And you're just basically overwhelmed by someone else's needs. If you force yourself to stay there and talk, you're giving something you don't have to give. You're depleted already. Your body's saying this is too much. And that happens in everyday relationships because we're always around people. And if you're exhausted or you're feeling empty, like my cup's only halfway full, I don't have anything left to give, it's going to be very hard to sustain an interaction with anyone at
Yeah.
work, at home, etc.
I know I just share a short story. When I was involved in a friendship over these last 3 years, this particular person, there was something I had never experienced this before, but almost we would have these interactions where it left me completely depleted. I had never experienced that before in my life. And it was
Mhm.
almost a struggle to get through the interaction in the first place. It was like
Mhm.
I lost my breath. I couldn't. Uh, I this whole situation caused me to numb out, abandon myself. It was one of the most difficult things I'd ever been through in my entire life. And looking back on it, I'm so grateful that I'm not in that particular relationship, friendship anymore.
Mhm.
But I understand exactly what we're talking about here tonight. So let's explore the difference between healthy connection versus emotional overextension, um, nervous system connection, or chronic onness. How do these relationships create these particular situations? And what are we dealing with here?
Well, a healthy connection would be your body is at a rested and regulated state. You're feeling okay, you're feeling good, um, you're not letting other factors enter into your interactions with other people. But when you have an you're overextending yourself emotionally or trying to please everyone, your nervous system goes haywire because it's trying to say, it's communicating to yourself, we need to rest, we need to reset, we need to rest, we're not ready to be here. And at the same time, it's saying, but we need to interact, we need to please people, and whatever it is we need, feel like we need to do in a given interaction. But if your body is not rested and your mind's not ready for that, your nervous system has a very hard time regulating and being there, being mindful, being present in the moment. So you might go into a state of arousal where you're anxious, you're overthinking things, you're giving too much to try to compensate for what you don't have. You're constantly monitoring, how's that other person feeling? Am I doing okay? Am I doing what I need to do? Are they happy with me? So our bodies in a state of arousal. in a hyper aroused state, constantly doing, constantly thinking, constantly feeling, constantly scanning for emotional cues from the other person. The other side of that, the flip side is you can be in a hypo arousal state. You just shut down, and it depends on your body and what you're used to and how you normally or typically deal with overwhelming situations. So you might be in the hypo arousal state where you're numb, you're withdrawn. You could be sitting there with someone, you could be in a crowd, and you're just not there. Physically, you're there, mentally, emotionally, you're checked out, you're disconnected, you're emotionally shut down. And that's your body's way of protecting itself when you're feeling overwhelmed, when your nervous system just can't handle anymore at any given moment.
So, what happens when the nervous system doesn't get enough time to come out of this type of relational stress?
It's hard to sustain the relationship. You go with the flow, you go with the emotions, you're wearing a mask, you're not there, you're checked out. So basically, you're not there. You're either looking like you're there and, ha ha ha, I'm talking to you, we're interacting, etc. But you got a mask on and you're just showing the outside to people, but inside you're saying something else. Or you could just be sitting there in a crowd and not interacting at all. You just don't have the capacity to do anything, to motivate yourself to talk, to hug, to shake people's hands. And it's a whole range of things you could be doing or not doing based on
How
how
do
you typically react. Yeah.
how do you deal with that in a marital situation? I know when I was married, um, I had been reading some things about your marriage gets to a point where, for example,
Hmm.
you're getting furious with your partner for the toothpaste lid, toothpaste cap being off the toothpaste, or like those little things about your partner will
Hmm.
trigger you.
Hmm.
So, how would you talk to someone that you were counseling or were giving somatic guidance to about that type of situation? Because it's like a more permanent
Hmm.
bond relationship. Well, it's supposed to be anyway.
Hmm.
So how would that work? How would you counsel someone on that?
First, I would just talk about, like fair fighting rules. What are you really fighting about? If you were to stick to the topic of what you're really fighting about or upset about, what's the real thing going on? It's not the toothpaste cap. That toothpaste cap didn't do anything to you. It's what's underlying all of that and why are you getting so irritated? And how can we look into what are these signals in your body telling? You're upset about the toothpaste cap being left off, or flip side, your husband might get upset because the toilet seat lid is down, or vice versa. It's up, and we're trying to go in the middle of the night, and you know what happens there. You just fall in. But
Exactly.
so,
Exactly.
what's the real argument about? What's the real irritation, sadness? Figure out what you're feeling in that moment. What's the real feeling going on? What's underneath that feeling? And then how can we work that through in our bodies so that we're aware of what we're doing? And then once we catch that, how do we calm our bodies down so that we can have conversations or look at what's really going on without getting irritated about many little things? And
Right.
sometimes it many times it leads to the couple sitting in front of me who we don't know what to do. We don't understand why this is happening. So exploring, looking at your body's cues. What do they mean? What feelings?
Ideally, it would be amazing if the two people, partners, could come together and regulate together, like
Mm-hmm,
maybe do some kind of deep breathing exercises when you both come home from work, for example,
mm-hmm,
or um, meditate together or pray
mm-hmm,
together or something. Because I think when you don't take time out for yourselves, because there's a lot of different triggers and stressors and everything. And yes, we do get nervous system exhaustion from being with someone else, but I think there's a lot
mm-hmm,
involved in it.
mm-hmm,
Maybe not just the person, but it could be anything that's going on in your life, because we're so conditioned to be in
mm-hmm,
survival mode daily with our jobs and different things that go on in our lives.
mm-hmm,
It just seems like we have to take time out for those type of things. But first, we have to
mm-hmm.
recognize that, and
Yeah.
that's where you come in, because you work with couples and people
Mm-hmm,
who are seeking this kind of
mm-hmm,
relief and understanding about their relationship. Because after all, we love the person
mm-hmm,
dearly, but we would like to kind of a return to balance within the
mm-hmm.
relationship.
And with couples, I've had couples where I will do different exercises with them, like having them put their hands against each other's hands, closing their eyes, breathing, and seeing what they pick up on. Can you tell where the muscle tension is? Can you tell if they're more relaxed and things like that? And then we take it from there into discussion. So,
Okay. So when does when does love stop feeling like I want to, I want to do these wonderful things for you, or I want to
hmm
be with you, and and start feeling like have to I
hmm
have to be with you, I have to do these things. Where does that transition take place?
when you pick up on different cues from your partner and you might be confused or you don't understand them. um, I want to be with you, but I feel like I have to be with you. The longer you're with someone, the more that pressure is. I have to stay. I have to stay for the kids. I have to stay for this. I have to stay for that. But what about the two of you? Because
Hmm.
the kids can pick up on, contrary to popular belief, you can put on all the facade you want, but the kids know what's going on non-verbally. They can feel it, they can see it. You're not naming it, but they know there's something not quite right.
Absolutely.
Um, and when we start worrying about disappointing people or questioning ourselves, we all go through periods where we're not so confident in relationships, question things that go on. And we have to, it's hard to really pinpoint when something changes like that, but you will start to notice my thoughts are changing, my feelings are changing. I feel like I have to please you. I put my feelings aside. I overcompensate. I do for you so you don't leave or you don't um, go elsewhere, cheat on me, or
Hmm.
find other friends to hang out with. You start recognizing that you're losing who you are. The stress of life can get to us so much that we don't always know when we're really overwhelmed. And then that spills over into our relationships. And that's when we have to ask ourselves many questions and look at, why am I doing this? Am I feeling good when I leave this interaction with my husband? Am I feeling good laying next to my partner? Am I feeling welcomed when I'm with the friends that I'm used to hanging out with? Um, Picking up, we have to pick up on all kinds of somatic cues, the nonverbal. This is where a lot of education comes in, not sitting just looking at a book, but understanding what is nonverbal, what is a nonverbal cue, what does that look like, what does that feel like in my particular situation.
Right.
How can I recognize it? How can I know when it's something healthy that I can continue to respond to? And how do I know when I need to stop and go, I need something here? Do I need a boundary to give? Or do I myself need a boundary? Does somebody need to give me one because I just can't control my feelings, my thoughts, my
Mhm.
emotions? Um, I'm not regulating in the relationship.
And a lot of times we start feeling responsible for someone else's emotions. We,
Hmm.
and that's, woo, those can be some serious gray areas.
Yes.
We start we start having fear of disappointing the other person. People pleasing can take over because I've been there,
Hmm.
done that, and over accommodating to
Hmm.
that other person. We start losing our identity because that's all of that sounds like self abandonment to me.
Hmm.
And then that creates a whole host of other things like
Hmm.
resentment. Um, that's the top one that I can think about. But wow, I mean, there's a whole host of things. We feel like we always have to be available for that person. We
Hmm.
start to feel like we feel guilty for needing our own space. Um, and like you talked about the boundaries, if you don't have clear boundaries between each other and the respect within for each other to give each other space and time and freedom and breathing room, I think sometimes it gets challenging. It can almost feel
Hmm.
claustrophobic a little bit.
Hmm.
So notice when you start feeling that way, or if you're feeling that way right now about your partner or a friend in a friendship or
Hmm.
any type of relationship, whether it be with your boss or whoever, the tight chest. Do you ever feel that when you're, you know,
Hmm.
dysregulated? Shallow breathing,
Hmm.
like jaw tension, teeth clenching, uh, tight shoulders. If you're like me, weeks later you'll figure out what that knot is, where it came from, the one in the back of your shoulder.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes you even feel the urge to escape.
Hmm.
So how do we know when we're choosing connection versus complying with the pressure?
That's where that good old self awareness comes in. Um, you have to get to the bottom of, why am I feeling this tight chest? Why am I, all the nonverbal cues you just named? Why is my jaw tight? Why do I feel a heaviness? Why do I feel like I can't breathe? And you have to figure out for yourself, am I in a healthy place? Do I need to do something to regulate myself? Am I in a healthy enough place where I can give to my partner, be with my friend, give to my friend? Or am I just doing what they want me to do and just being like a robot, a programmed robot, because I'm not aware of what's really going on?
Right.
So, this is where you really, 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 if you're in a relationship, you have to really know yourself and or be willing to get to know yourself more so that you know how to regulate and co-regulate your relationship so that
Yeah.
you're not feeling overwhelmed and acting on that. You're acting from a place of, okay, I'm aware I'm overwhelmed. This is way too much for me right now. I need my boundary of taking a few minutes before I come and talk to you, or before we have dinner, before we go out. This
Hmm.
is where self awareness is really key, because if you don't know yourself, you're not going to know what you're capable of doing in a relationship.
Right.
Um, and you also need to, something I didn't mention, you have to be aware in relationships, is this healthy for me? Is it abusive? Is there something I'm missing? Is this really happening? Is this just a rough patch in our relationship? Or is this really an abusive relationship
Hmm.
that I need to seek help with, seek help for, and find out what's really going on? How do I safely explore this without getting myself hurt mentally, physically, emotionally, financially? So, self awareness is key so that you know, is this healthy? Is this something I can change? I need to be in control of what I'm saying and doing. I need to know that I have choices and I'm not just doing things because I'm trying to please the person or persons I'm with.
And sometimes the relationship isn't asking too much of us. We've just simply stopped listening to ourselves.
Hmm.
We get so caught up in,
Yeah.
you know, daily life that we forget to check in with ourselves. And
Hmm.
sometimes we'll want to project that blame onto other people.
Hmm.
And that's why I wanted to ask you to explain co regulation a little
Hmm.
bit and how, in a relationship, you
Hmm.
would do that. Can you give us some examples of that? Because I think that gets lost
Hmm.
amongst many people. Would that be like what I said earlier, like the praying together and the meditation? And I think there's some other ways.
Those are definitely examples of things you can do to co regulate. But if you think about self regulation, my nervous system needs to be calm, my body needs to be calm, my mind needs to be calm, relaxed, so I can think, so I can process. So if a problem comes up, I'm ready for it. Co regulation is when both of you are regulating yourselves, or you're both in that interaction and you're not triggering each other. Because we have situations where you've probably gotten into arguments or disagreements. I need to tit for tat, tit for tat. I need to one up you. I need to keep going. If one of you does not lower that energy, it's just going to
Hmm.
continue to grow and explode. That's an extreme example of we are not co regulating. Co regulating would be maybe one of you is up here very upset, but you're able to use a tone of voice and validate the other person's feelings by just acknowledging, I notice you're feeling, or checking in with that person. So, co regulation is all about that energy that's going on between two or more people. Can we function together? Can we meditate? Can we talk calmly? Can we take a deep breath? Can we take a break if we feel like things continue to escalate and they're not coming down, no matter how hard we try? Those are all examples of co regulation. Um, if you need to calm the energy between you and your partner or your friends, taking walks, doing some kind of physical activity, doing some kind of craft, some enjoyable hobby, something so that you're not completely focused on the tension that's going on,
Right.
and that you're
Dance. Turn the
yeah,
music on and dance.
dance. There you go, dance. Touch, touch in a healthy way.
Yes.
A lot of couples do not hold hands. They don't even hold hands anymore.
Hmm. Hmm.
They don't kiss. They don't hug. And some of them have told me it's been years. They let life take over and regulate them instead of them regulating themselves and their
Yes.
lives.
Yes.
They let everything distract from the relationship.
Got you.
And that's when it's hard to co regulate because you've lost sight of yourself, self abandonment. You lost sight of what your goals were as a couple. You've lost sight of respecting each other for who you are as individuals. And it's very hard to see because we change every year, every day, every minute, every hour. And if you're so far gone from each other and can't see that, you really need to do the work to get that self awareness. And if you want to stay together, figure out, do we want to stay together? Sometimes
Hmm.
couples come to me and they say, we just need to figure out if we want to stay together.
Right.
And so I will explore that with them, not give them the answer. That's not my answer to give, but bring things out they can look at and decide we want to work on that. We want to be together. We want to co regulate. We want all this tension gone from the dating
Hmm.
us. Um,
And these are just tools that couples can use that they might not even be aware of that can
mhm,
help enhance the relationship or bring back that fire that's
mhm,
missing uh,
mhm,
within ourselves individually and within the relationship.
mhm,
So let's ask the audience, think about someone that you love dearly
mhm,
and ask yourself, do I feel energized after being with them, or do you feel depleted? Do I feel free to say no to that person? Do I feel safe asking for space?
mhm.
Do I feel responsible for their emotional state? Are you walking on eggshells to keep that person happy or not make them angry? And do I feel like I can fully be myself? I think that one matters an awful lot
Mhm.
because if you don't feel like you can be yourself, that's almost a hard thing to come back from.
Because if you can't be yourself, you can't give anything.
Exactly.
You're not there anymore.
Yeah, so your body often knows that you're overwhelmed before your mind is willing to admit it.
Mhm.
So, how can someone intellectually believe that they're fine while their body is screaming they're not? Do they just not recognize the signals that their body is giving them?
You either don't recognize the what's coming up in your body, or you ignore it and you pretend it's not. No, that's not really going on. This really can't be happening.
Hmm.
So you may not recognize, and some things you just ignore the signs going on in your body. Um, and if you're really not in touch with yourself, the more you say, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, you're pushing all those feelings down. You're pushing down who you really are and what's really going on. And the more you push it down, the more numb you are to it, and the more
Yeah.
you're really not aware of it. Or it could be right at the surface, ready to explode. But the more you have to acknowledge, 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 acknowledge. Even if you don't understand what the feeling is, even when you don't feel fine, but you don't understand why, acknowledge, I'm not fine. I don't know
Hmm.
why, but something about this makes me not feel fine. Because pretending, it always comes out somewhere. It always affects the relationship somewhere.
Right. And then again, I'm going to throw that self abandonment back in there because then
Mhm.
that creates resentment. And the I remember in I remember feeling so numb in a relationship. I did not understand it because I'm a spiritual, deeply spiritual person,
Mhm.
And I could not even feel that anymore. I couldn't feel my guiding compass, my own. I couldn't get in tune with my intuition.
Mhm.
I could not feel, and I don't think I've ever felt like that in my entire life.
Mhm.
That was one of the worst feelings because I felt like I didn't know what was up and what was down and what made me happy anymore, and I
Mhm.
didn't know how to get out of the situation. I honestly didn't know what was causing my numbness until after the fact.
Mhm.
And whew, that's difficult to deal with.
Mhm.
So emotional exhaustion in a relationship might show up like fatigue that sleep doesn't fix.
Mhm.
Um, you get irritable and start lashing out over the small things, like the
Mhm.
toothpaste cap, like we talked earlier.
Mhm.
Resentment again,
Mhm.
avoiding connection with each other,
Mhm.
all those things. Feeling emotionally flat, that's attributed to that numbness.
Mhm.
Um, Dreading messages or calls from someone, well, that's rough if it's your spouse or, you know,
Mhm.
that gets really challenging. And sometimes we just have a constant need for solitude, to be
Mhm.
alone.
Mhm. So that's your body telling you in all kinds of ways, I need something.
Yes,
Something's not well. I don't like that word right or wrong all the time, but something doesn't
yeah,
feel right. Something's not well within me or within this relationship.
right.
That's your body telling you in all kinds of ways.
I remember being in a, my marriage was abusive, and I would ball up into the fetal position in bed because I didn't want him to touch me. And eventually, I banished him to the sofa in our family room in the basement. But that's how bad it had gotten for
Mhm.
us. And but that's when I started seeing that, okay, this isn't going to work out, and we
Mhm.
need to look at ways of parting.
Mhm.
And so those instances can be really challenging.
Mhm.
So let's also talk about the invisible emotional labor that we carry in these relationships. Like we talked a little earlier about managing someone else's feelings or their expectations, you know, and unspoken
I
expectations.
was
That,
gonna say that, yeah.
whoo, that's huge. Because talk about that one a little bit, because that's serious.
I always tell people, you never know what the other person is really thinking, feeling, or wants or needs unless you hear it directly from them. You might know it a little bit, but you really don't know it unless they tell you. And there are so many unwritten expectations in marriages, in relationships, friendships. And those are often based on how were you raised? How did your family teach you how to deal with anger? How did your family teach you what you need to do to please someone else in a relationship? Were you able to be independent and express yourself? Or did you see, nope, this person always does this, the man always does this, the woman always does this? These are all these things underlying these unwritten, unspoken expectations. So a lot of times when I'm working with couples, I will ask them, what are your expectations of each other in different areas, whatever we're talking about? What are some expectations that you think the other person wants from you that they're not saying? Or I'll ask them, what is it you're uncomfortable saying? Is there something you're not comfortable sharing? Uh,
I think that um, when you for example, before I went into my marriage, I had expressed what one of my expectations were. And it was extremely important to me in terms of the partner that I chose to be with myself. And
Mhm.
that became a sticking point within our relationship.
Mhm.
So there was like almost no regulation, and there was a lot of resentment because at that time in my life, I wanted to be able to pursue my career and I wanted to
Mhm.
be able to move around and try different things. And
Mhm.
even though I had expressed that expectation, and I've been in this a few times in my life, even in friendships, people don't almost don't believe you. It's like you
Mhm.
can say it and then it totally gets ignored. And it's not like you
Mhm.
didn't say it, but they ignore your expectation. And
Mhm.
I think it's important to express those within the relationship or even when you're trying to regulate and co-regulate with each other, if
Mhm.
you're not expressing what your expectations of each other are,
Mhm.
um, how can you move forward on anything?
Right? Because you'll get upset because they didn't do this for me. They didn't do that. They didn't know that
Right.
you expected that. They didn't know that that was important to you always. They didn't know that you wanted that or needed whatever it is. You gotta be able to express yourself and
Yeah. So
figure out, yeah.
so it's not necessarily that you don't love the person. Everybody's situation is different, but your nervous system just might be overwhelmed by the way you're relating to each other.
Mhm.
And so that's when it's time to take a different look at
Yeah.
things. If the relationship is worth it to you, to
Mhm.
both of you, you know,
Right.
these are the ways that you can start
Mhm.
to work things out with each other, because we're not always aware of how our nervous systems have sometimes sabotaged ourselves and the relationship.
Mhm. Because what you're seeing happening isn't always the true complete picture of what's going on in your relationship
Yes,
because of those expectations we don't talk about, because of how we were raised and what we expect from the other person and how we want them to treat us. We've got to be able to communicate that.
exactly. So let's do the guided somatic exercise, Tracy.
Okay.
Take people through the process
Okay.
of
So,
regulation.
as we've done before, I'll invite you to get in a comfortable position. Sitting stand, we can't see you, so whatever you need to do, you do it to be comfortable. And just notice, think of a recent moment when love in your life felt heavy, when it was a lot, when it was too much. Whatever words help you understand what heavy is. And notice what happens in your body when you think about that. Where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your head? Do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your heart? Do you feel it in any kind of muscle tension or breathing? Is your breathing getting stuck somewhere? Are you holding your breath? And then see, as you're noticing what's going on, can you name the sensation you're feeling? Is it pressure? Is it tightness? Is it fatigue? Just tired? Is it resistance, feeling like you need to fight something? Is it fear of some kind? That heaviness that you're feeling in your relationship you're thinking about. And then to regulate, just take a slow breath through your nose and then Exhale a little longer out through your mouth. And take another one of those slow breaths through your nose and let it out a little longer. And that sensation that you were feeling, that tension, that pressure, just place your hand wherever you felt that, wherever you noticed that sensation. And as your hand is there, just allow your body to soften that tension, that pressure, that uncomfortable sensation. So take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, continue to soften. And then ask yourself, what would feel like 10% less pressure right now? Not 100%, but if I could get that pressure to soften, that tension to soften, just 10%, what would that feel like? A little bit at a time. And then choose, what is one small shift you can do in your relationship that you're feeling this heaviness, this sensation, this tension? Can you pause before you respond? I notice this tension. Let me take a deep breath, let it soften. And that moment of pause before I respond can make some difference. Can I delay the conversation? We don't always have to do everything immediately, although we feel that. Giving that space. Ask for space. Can I take a few minutes? I need to get my thoughts together. I need to calm myself down so I'm feeling better when I come back to talk to you. Do you need to say no in whatever situation you're thinking of? Do you need to soften your body so you can have a different response, a less intense response? And, or do you need to let someone else carry their own emotion? Do I need to take what I'm feeling here? It's not mine, this is yours. I'm giving it back to you. Do you need to put down other people's feelings instead of feeling like the weight of the world is on my shoulders and I have to help everybody deal with all of their emotions? And the key here is you don't always need to make a dramatic change. Sometimes your nervous system just needs permission to experience choice again, to slow down, to soften, to say, wait a minute, I need space, whatever it is. And then just take one more deep breath and let it out.
Thank you, Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk quickly about shifting the dynamic without blame,
Mm-hmm.
moving away from they're too much
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not enough,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what tends to happen. So we want to move towards more capacity based relating to each other.
Mm-hmm.
What are some practical tools that people can use to be able to do this, to be able to shift the dynamic without blame?
That's when you need to slow the situation down, slow your thoughts down, slow your feelings down, and say, I need a break. Can we take a few minutes and come back? And a lot of times I recommend, if you take a break from each other in the middle of a heated argument or you just can't agree and it's too tense, make sure you Tell that person, I'm coming back. I just need this many minutes and we can try again. And that way they don't feel like you're ignoring me. You don't want to deal with this. You're disrespectful. That's a word we all like to throw around.
Mm-hmm.
Permission to take space as you need it. Permission to take breaks. Um, Telling yourself, instead of they're too much, I'm going to label you as too much, or I'm going to label myself, I'm not enough. What about, what have we been through today? What happened to us today where we're in this place? What happened a moment ago, right before this, where we're feeling like I'm not enough or they're too much? So you can look at it more objectively and not just stay stuck
Mm-hmm.
in that frame of mind.
And that's a good time to choose for yourself as well, while taking the other person's needs into consideration,
Hmm.
and you're actually practicing boundaries without punishment,
Yes.
and you're allowing them to have their emotions and deal with them on their own, because after all, emotional we all have our own ways of dealing with things.
Hmm.
um, and we just have to reframe our boundaries, because sometimes we've never set boundaries,
Right.
so that can be challenging, and that's something that we need to learn, and this situation absolutely gives you a chance to practice that.
Hmm.
And boundaries themselves can be regulation. So sustainable love requires space, not just closeness, and we have to recognize that, because that's all part of a healthy relationship.
Hmm.
So I'm just going to say, what would it feel like to come back to myself? Ask yourself that.
Hmm.
What would it feel like to come back to myself without leaving the relationship?
Hmm.
That's crucial.
Hmm.
And you don't have to leave love to find relief. You might simply need to come back to yourself inside of it, inside
Hmm.
that relationship, that friendship, that relationship at work, whatever it may be. Because love or respect for another person isn't supposed to require you to abandon yourself to
Hmm.
keep someone else comfortable.
Right.
That's the balance. That's the balancing act. Because when
Hmm.
you start self-abandoning, you start resenting the other person and even yourself.
Hmm.
You start resenting yourself for even feeling like that.
Hmm.
And healthy connection isn't about being endlessly available, it's about having enough safety, space, and capacity to show up by choice,
Hmm.
not obligation.
Hmm.
Sustainable love requires space.
Yes.
And sometimes the most loving thing that you can do for a relationship is regulate yourself enough to hear what your body has been trying to tell you all along,
Hmm.
and give your partner the opportunity to do that as well.
Hmm.
So, Tracy, do you have any final words of wisdom you want to share
Just the
about?
more, oh, just the more you listen to your body and your partner listens to theirs, that creates a whole new dynamic in your relationship. You get to know each other on a level you didn't know each other before, and that can really grow your relationship. It can have you separate, or it can really help you grow your relationship. But bottom line is you learn who you are, who they are, and how can we grow together if we can.
Thank you, Tracy. And if this conversation resonated with you, we would love to hear from you. Have you ever loved someone deeply but still felt emotionally exhausted by the relationship? What do you think your body was trying to tell you? So share your experience in the comments, guys, and please like, share, and share it with someone who you think may need this. These practices and this awareness is key
Mhm.
for so many of us in this world, and we all know someone who needs a little help with uh, regulating and co-regulating,
Mhm.
especially in relationships. So until next time, keep regulating and keep rising. And remember, regulation is the path to liberation. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.